Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Arizona versus K-State preview. I'm Christian. That guy down there is Chris Vaca. Damn right, son. Well, Chris, I'll get us started here with a little Arizona Wildcats preview as they come into this game against K-State, okay? Look, Arizona had a little difficulty last week against North Arizona, but I'm going to chalk that up to looking ahead, and they were missing several key pieces, right? Chris, I got an interesting stat for you. Did you know that Arizona has the longest active winning streak in college football right now, sitting at 9 straight wins?
No, I did not know that. Interesting stat.
Damn right. Thank you. Very interesting. All right. Let us know down below if you knew that, by God. Here's the thing. I thought the quarterback, Noah Fafita, he looked a little off, obviously, in that game, right? He only had 178 yards and 1 touchdowns, right? I'm going to look for a bounce-back game against K-State, right? They gave up 350 passing yards to Tulane, something Chris will talk to a little more about here. I thought, the Arizona, has their star receiver out there, right? T-Mac, as they call him, McMillan. He had 10 catches for a school record, 304 yards and 4 touchdowns, right, in his record-setting performance, in week 1, right? But last week he had just 2 catches for 11 yards on 6 targets, right?
Wow.
But I'm going to look for him to get plenty of opportunities in this one, right? It's going to be a pretty hard-fought game, I think, for both schools. But look, Chris, ultimately, Arizona was without their running back, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. But getting him back and pairing him with Quali Conley, I think, could be a lethal combo for the Wildcats, right? But here's the one thing that's pretty interesting. K-State has been a top 40 team so far this year at shutting down opponents' run games. So I'm going to see how that all plays out. I think on the other side of the ball, Arizona's been kind of middle of the road in terms of passing yards allowed. They'll have to be careful, though, as K-State, we know they can be explosive when they want to be. They can turn it on and, bam, just start lighting you up. Here's another interesting stat for you. K-State ranks 106 in passing offense. So Arizona needs to bottle up the run game and force Avery Johnson to throw the ball. Here's the thing. I look for Trey Smith and Jacob Manu to step up and be the difference makers in the front 7, right? They already have 31 combined tackles. So look for them to kind of pace that front 7 in this one. Chris, I'll throw it over to you. I want to hear a little more about K-State.
Yeah, no, K-State, we know they're 2-0. Small sample size here to look at, but this is what we got to go after. The win over UT Martin, 41-6. I don't have a ton to say about that game. Now, I do have something to say about the game against Tulane last week. I watched the entirety of that football game. If you guys know anything about this channel, I'm pretty high on K-State this year. Now, nothing against Tulane. They're a better team than I thought they were. But the 34-27 win, man, if it wasn't for the sack fumble recovery by K-State, and they returned that for a touchdown, pretty much shifted the momentum in that game and put K-State on top. Now, what I want to get into, you talked about it, alluded to it with Arizona. Arizona's a big play team on offense. K-State has struggled this year against the big play. Tulane made several of them last week. They got to get better there, man. They gave up over 342 yards to the air and 150 on the ground to Tulane. That defense has got to be better. I know the K-State fans were telling me all offseason, Chris, you guys got to watch out for K-State's defense. Well, where's it at? I know Tulane's a decent team, but don't come on in and tell me they're Ohio State or, Georgia or somebody like that. It's got to get better, and they got to tackle better. That was the thing I noticed that last game, a lot of missed tackles on the defensive side of the ball. Now, offensively for K-State, I like Avery Johnson. Really good athlete. Needs to improve the passing game a little bit. I'm not gonna come on here and harp on him too much. He was 15-23 for 181 yards. He had the 2 tutties. So not bad there, but receivers dropped a couple balls. I'd like to see him stretch the ball down the field a little bit as well. Now, you mentioned it. You alluded to the rushing game of K-State. DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards, man. These guys have been really effective all year long. I expect them to pound the rock here against Arizona, Christian. I really do. Arizona's got a decent defense. I wouldn't say it's elite yet, but I could see K-State getting some yards on the ground in this one. Also, I want to add Avery Johnson can run a little bit. He's a really good athlete back there, pretty elusive as well. So my prediction, Christian, I had to think about this one for a while. K-State is favored by 7 points right now, and they're at home. So that sounds about right from what I've seen so far. I think this game is going to be kind of a shootout. I really do. I think both offenses are going to light it up. I have Arizona 34, K-State 38.
We're close.
Okay.
Give me Arizona 37, K-State 34.
Wow, you picking the upset here, huh?
I'm picking the upset. Listen, we've watched both these teams play. I mean, I didn't watch a lot of the North Arizona game last week. Like, truthfully, a lot of people probably, unless you're an Arizona fan, probably didn't. But both these teams, I thought, have had up and down performances from week to week. But I think, to me, like I said, I'm picking the upset. Going with my gut here. Everybody, I guess, at ESPN and the general public here they're pretty heavily on K-State. The thing you would say, Chris, is K-State has struggled at times this year. They have struggled at times this year. Like I said, I know they ended up blowing out, as I recall, they ended up blowing out UT Martin in week 1. But that game was a little closer than I remember for like a half, if I'm not mistaken, right? UT Martin was kind of hanging in there with them, and then all of a sudden they turned it off. I'll chalk that up as, hey, that happens. I mean, we see Bama kept it close with USF for 3 quarters. You know what I mean? And then it went in a blowout game. So, no, I think for this game, I think it's going to be a really fun game. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a Big 12 style of game. Chris, let me ask you a question here. Do you think there's any way Arizona has a chance to win this game?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was kind of back and forth on this because I wanted to mention this too. As you talked about Arizona, the McMillan kid at wide receiver, he is really, really good. He might be the best wide receiver in the country, honestly. I think Luther Burden III from Missouri is up there. This kid is definitely into the discussion. I know he didn't have a great stat line last week, but we know what this kid can do. And we talked about it here. I mean, K-State has given up big play after big play defensively. This kid is a big play waiting to happen. If they connect on a couple long balls, yeah, I could definitely see that, this going Arizona's way. I want to ask you a question too before we wrap this up here. Both these teams have Big 12 title hopes. I think that's, obviously very obvious. They're both 2-0. How important is this game to each school, Christian?
I think for both these schools, I mean, it's extremely important. We broke both these schools down. We did a record prediction going into the season, and both these schools' fan bases, surprisingly, let us know in the comment section that we're sleeping on their team. Literally, I think both schools dropped their entire starting defense, in our comment section. So both schools have a lot of pride here. Both schools have a lot of expectations. They believe with Texas and Oklahoma leaving and some of these newcomers coming over, this is their year. We saw how obviously Oklahoma State looked against Arkansas. They're beatable. I think that you look at with Utah, Cam Rising. We know that he's hurt. He's going to be week to week for the next 25 years until he's 50 years old and retires from college football, whatever the hell it is. But I think the Big 12 is pretty wide open. I think for both of these schools, they have this is a big game that they have to win. Obviously, it's a Big 12 game here, right? So they have to figure out a way to win and get started with the right momentum.